Magandang araw po sa inyo. Ako nga pala si James Lloyd Makasukol Herbas from Section B of Batch M49. Today's video po I'll be discussing a topic about mechanical system and physics. What is physics? Physics is the natural science that studies matter, its fundamental constituent, its motion and behavior through space and time, and the relative entities of energy and force. Physics is one of the most fundamental scientific disciplines, and its main goal is to understand how the universe behaves. First is friction. This is under the physics. Friction is a force that resists motion of the object that is in contact with another object or material. Friction affects speed and direction. The cause of friction is a combination of molecular adhesion, surface roughness, and deformation effects. Type of friction. Static friction is a force that keeps an object at rest. Static friction can prevent an object from sliding down a sloped surface. This is the friction that holds things stationary or static, otherwise nothing would ever stay where it was placed. Next is the limiting friction. It is the maximum value of static friction that comes into play when a body is just at the point of sliding over the surface of another body. It is the friction first to be overcome before it moves. For two dry surfaces, the limiting friction is a product of the normal reaction force and the coefficient of limiting friction. Next is the sliding friction. Refers to the resistance created by two objects sliding against each other. This can be also called kinetic friction. Sliding friction is intended to stop an object from moving. Rolling friction. The force resisting the motion of a rolling body on a surface is known as rolling friction or rolling resistance. Rolling of a ball or wheel on the ground is an example of rolling friction. Fluid friction. It is the force resisting the relative motion of solid surfaces, fluid layers, and material elements sliding against each other. Fluid friction occurs between fluid layers that are moving relative to each other. This internal resistance to flow is named viscosity. In everyday terms, the viscosity of a fluid is described as its thickness. Inertia. Inertia of an object is the tendency of the object to remain at rest or, if moving, to continue its motion. An object's inertia is determined by its mass. A force that is acting on an object is equal to the mass of the object multiplied by the acceleration the object undergoes. Law of inertia. Newton's first law of motion states that everyday object will remain at rest or in uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change its state by the action of an external force. Newton's second law of motion defines the relative between the change in speed of a moving object, that is, its acceleration, and the force acting upon it. Newton's third law of motion states that when two bodies interact, they apply forces to one another that are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. The third law is also known as the law of action and reaction. Gravity. Gravity or gravitational is a natural phenomenon by which all things with mass or energy, including planets, stars, galaxies, and even light, are attracted to one another. On Earth, gravity gives weight to physical objects, and the moon's gravity causes the tides of the oceans. Force. In physics, a force is an influence that can change the motion of an object. A force can cause an object with mass to change its velocity. Example, moving from a state of rest, that is to accelerate. Force can also be described intuitively as a push or a pull. A force has both magnitude and direction, making it a vector quantity. It is measured in the SI unit of Newton. Force is represented by the symbol F, formally P. Momentum. Momentum can be defined as mass in motion. All objects have mass. So if an object is moving, then it has momentum. It has its mass in motion. The amount of momentum that an object has is dependent upon two variables: how much stuff is moving and how fast the stuff is moving. Momentum depends upon the variable mass and velocity. In terms of an equation, the momentum of an object is equal to the mass of the object times the velocity of the object. Pressure. Pressure in physical science, the perpendicular force per unit area or the stress of a point within a confined fluid. The pressure exerted on a floor by a 42-pound box, the bottom of which has an area of 84 square inches, is equal to the force divided by the area over which it is exerted. That is, it is 1/2 pound per inch. The weight of the atmosphere pushing down on each unit area of Earth's surface constitute atmospheric pressure, which at sea level is about 15 pounds per square inch. In SI unit, pressure is measured in pascals. 1 pascal equal to 1 newton per square meter. Atmospheric pressure is close to 100,000 pascals. Torque. Torque is a measure of the force that can cause an object to rotate about an axis. Just as force is what causes an object to accelerate in linear kinematics, torque is what causes an object to acquire angular acceleration. Work. Work is the measure of energy transfer that occurs when an object is moved over a distance by an external force, at least part of which is applied in the direction of the displacement. Energy. Energy is defined as the ability to work, which is the ability to exert a force causing displacement of an object. Despite this confusing definition, its meaning is very simple. Energy is just the force that causes things to move. Energy is divided into two types: potential and kinetic. Power. It is the amount of energy transferred or converted per unit time. In the International System of Unit, the unit power is the watt, equal to 1 joule per second. In older works, power is sometimes called activity. Power is a scalar quantity. Horsepower. It is the common unit of power, that is the rate at which work is done. In the British Imperial System, 1 horsepower equals 33,000 foot-pounds of work per minute. Dynamometer. Dynamometer is a device for measuring mechanical force or power transmitted by a rotating shaft. Since power is the product of torque, turning force, and angular speed, all powered measuring dynamometers are essentially torque measuring devices. The shaft speed is measured separately. Efficiency. Efficiency in physics is a comparison of the object output to the energy input in a given system. It is defined as the percentage ratio of the output energy to the input energy, given by the equation. This equation is commonly used in order to represent energy in the form of heat or power. Speed and velocity. Speed is the distance traveled per unit of time. It is how fast an object is moving. Speed is a scalar quantity that is the magnitude of the velocity vector. It doesn't have a direction. Velocity. It is defined as a vector measurement of the rate and direction of motion. Simply put, velocity is the speed at which something moves in one direction. Density. Density is the amount of matter per unit of volume, defined in a qualitative manner as the measure of the relative heaviness of object with a constant volume.